Hey guys, Spudknocker here, as always, and today I wanted to bring you guys a video that I think is very important and very needed in the DCS world community, and that is going back to the fundamentals of air-to-ground tactics for use here in DCS world. Now, I've been through a lot of the tracks and replays and ACMI files from TacView of recent Wingman Finder missions, and I would say 90% of the players who get shot down and killed in my missions do so as a result of lacking a little bit of air-to-ground fundamental skills. And so all of these deaths and all of these shootdowns are very, very preventable. And we're going to go ahead and go over those today. And hopefully get you guys to fly a bit more survivably, have a lot more lethality on the battlefield for the next mission you participate in, whether it's one of my missions, someone else's missions, your own group, or a public server. So why don't we go ahead and get started. First thing we want to make sure we have ready to go is we have our countermeasures set up. Whether that's you're in the F-18, the AV-8B, or the F-14, you always want to have your countermeasures set up and ready to go before you go into the combat area. Next thing to know here is these tactics apply to all of the combat jets in DCS world, including the World War II prop jobs. So make sure you are following these tactics every time you roll in to attack a ground target. Now the first thing you want to make sure you're doing is you're not flying directly nose on to your target when you're past your IP point. IP is initial point, that's the waypoint or geographic location if you're just completely flying VFR to your target area before you get to your target waypoint or where your target is in space and time. So what I mean by that is we don't want to we're going after a convoy somewhere off in this direction. What we don't want to do is we don't want to be flying directly at that target point. The reason is, number one, if our convoy is down here, we can't see it anymore. And that's very important because we need to be able to see our target to kill it. But an even arguably more important reason is we don't want to have a SAM or a stream of AAA tracers or something like that come up towards us and we can't see it because that target area is down below our nose there. So that's something that's very, very important. So we're going to turn off here. Also something that is incredibly important is make sure your weapons... Okay, so we got our labels helping us out a bit. We've got our convoy down here, so we'll quickly swap over and make sure our weapons are good to go. We've got a couple Mark 82s on board. Dud Q is gone, so we know our weapons are good to go. We're going to come back to the EW page in case we need it. We've got our master arm turned on, of course. Now, one thing that's incredibly important here is to, of course, make sure your weapons are good to go, but also is to, when you roll in on your target area, you want to get that CCIP cross up from down below the HUD, up onto the HUD as quickly as you can and as efficiently as you can. This allows you to drop your bombs from as high of an altitude as possible and pull off your target area to minimize your exposure to air defenses. We want to keep in mind that man pads have roughly a effective range up to about 15,000 feet. They have an effective kill radius of about 10,000 feet and below, and they're extremely lethal 8,000 feet and below. We've got a target here at sea level, just so you guys know, so that it should make some things a little bit easier to read on my altimeter up here on my HUD. So make sure you are not getting within the range of man pads, not getting within the range of AAA. My rule of thumb when I'm doing private lessons or when I'm coaching guys in missions that we fly is to always drop your bombs at 8,000 feet at the minimum. Now, a lot of guys who need some practice end up dropping it lower than that, but making sure they have that 8,000 foot hard deck in mind really helps to make sure they don't get into that bad envelope there. So we're just kind of orbiting a little bit, setting up our target run here. We'll pull the auto throttles off. Now when we go into our dive, we want to make sure that we have a nice steep angle between 30 degrees and 45 degrees, and that will allow us to more easily pull that CCIP cross up onto our HUD. as quickly as possible. Also keep in mind that we need to be releasing countermeasures, usually in the form of flares, especially in the Middle East here, where man-pads are a large problem. But we don't want to be releasing flares on the way in, we want to release flares on the way out. We want to be as quiet and stealthy as possible, I guess you could say, and flares are just going to light you up in the sky for enemy gunners. So we've got our target off of our nose here. I'm sorry, off of our canopy bow, that's where we want to have it. And when you feel about ready, you can go ahead and roll into that target. So I'm going to go ahead and roll over and pull into our target here. As you can see, we're about a 30-degree dive. We're maneuvering violently. We're dropping bombs to kill people here, so everything is violent. We want to make sure that we get that cross up soon. I'm going to drop on that lead vehicle, Pickle. We're pumping out a couple flares. We're going to fly unpredictably so that enemy gunners won't be able to hit us. And just barely missed the convoy. Not a bad shot, but as you can see, we got that bomb off right at 8,000 feet, which is incredibly important. We're very much out of the range of AAA on the ground. Usually smaller, higher rate of fire AAA, like 23 and 30 millimeter guns, or 50.5 inch like Dishkas, things like that. That a Middle Eastern opponent like Iran might be shooting up at us, as well as making sure we're out of the very, very lethal radius of man-pads. And I'm sure you heard those little thunks as I'm coming off the target area. Those are myself releasing flares. We can see we put 8 flares out there, as long as a number of bundles of chaff. Having some chaff out there is also important too, because we don't want to get locked on by something like an SA-8 or something of that nature that might be down there. And as you can see, I'm being nice and patient in terms of coming back around to that target. I'm setting myself up for a good run-in on that target again. I'm also making sure that I do not come in on a reciprocal heading. As I said before, dogfighting and air-to-ground is not that much different. You want to be unpredictable, you want to be dynamic, and you want to be aggressive. Just like you would be if you were dogfighting another jet. Except at this point, you're dogfighting the AAA gunners on the ground, if you want to think about it that way. So we're coming off on a different heading, so we came off kind of more or less out this way to the southwest. Now we're going to go in from the and pull off the target to the northeast. So making sure we're definitely not on reciprocal. We're going to come on in a little bit, bring the target a little bit closer to our canopy bow. We're starting out from a bit of a lower altitude, but that's okay. We're going to make sure we get that HUD cross up on there nice and quick with a steeper dive angle, so we can release our bombs at a high enough altitude to remain safe and out of danger. Alright, we're pulling on in. So now we're down at more or less a 35-degree angle. I'm going to pull my throttles back this time, because I have a little bit less altitude to work with. Come on, baby. Come on. Alright. One's away. I'm going to come off the target area. Still releasing flares and chaff. Being preemptive with that. Instead of waiting to... Nice, we got a good hit on... Looks like the third vehicle in the convoy down there. I'm being preemptive with these flares and chaff. Rather than waiting to see a man-pad or some sort of other SAM come up at me, I'm releasing them preemptively. So here we go. We're going to be patient again as we come around for another pass in that target area. We're not going to come around super quick again. Trim is acting a little funny in my jet right now, so we'll fix that up a little bit here. Make sure we... There we go. Now we've got a nice controllable jet for our next attack run. Being patient, coming up back into altitude. Remember that as a tactical jet, when you're going fast and diving in on a target area, enemies are not going to be able to see you very well, especially if they're looking up the chute and looking at the front aspect of your aircraft, and if you're going fast enough, they're not going to hear you. If you've ever been to a Thunderbirds or Blue Angels display, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we want to use that to our advantage here by coming in from a nice steep angle, flying right down the chute onto our target area, get that CCIP cross up onto our HUD ASAP, pickle those bombs off, and get the hell out of there. So this time, I don't want to come in from a heading that I've already flown, so I'm going to bring it on around a little bit. And we're back up to 18,000 feet. Perfect. And we know where our target is. He's right on down there. Getting a little bit of help from the labels, of course. Now also remember that ground attack, just like dogfighting, is a team sport. It is not a lone wolf kind of thing here. It's incredibly important to have wingmen at an overwatch in a perch position looking down at the target area as the successive members of the flight are diving on the target in order to call out threats, streams of AAA, man-pad launches, all these kinds of things that are very, very detrimental to you that wingmen can always help with. So keep in mind that we are always relying on our teammates and playing a team sport, not an individual sport here flying military aircraft. Alright, we're going to roll in on this guy. Looks like they left the road. That's interesting. I've never seen them do that before. Alright, bringing our cross up. Come on, baby. You got it. And pickle. So it looked like those trucks were booking it, and they're in the water now. What the hell? So it looks like we got a nice hit anyway, right where we were aiming. So that works for us. Not sure what those trucks down there are doing. But as we've been doing before, we're still releasing those flares and chaff preemptively. And we're going to be patient as we come around. Once again, seeing the AI do weird things that I've never seen it do before. But that's alright. Also keep in mind that when you're rolling in on a target area, never, ever, ever be pushing negative Gs. Especially when you're first starting out and practicing, as I can't tell you how many times I've seen new guys in my missions kill themselves with their own bombs by pickling, pushing negative Gs, and hitting their own bombs, thus detonating them and blowing their own aircraft to smithereens. As a pilot, having a Mark 83 or a Mark 82 or even a Mark 84 explode underneath your aircraft is instant death. There is no way to escape that. So keep that in mind, because it could definitely save your digital life one day. Now we don't have any wingmen here helping us out in a perch position as we demonstrate this, but it still works just fine for our purposes as I talk you guys through the fundamentals of attacking ground targets. Now these things apply to gun runs and to rocket runs as well. However, those are, require a bit more hope and praying to get those to work. So I'm going to go ahead and roll on in. As you can see there, even though I don't have as perfect of a roll-in point as I did before, I'm still keeping the targets off of my canopy bow so that I can see the target area, see any threats that are down there before I roll in and come down the chute. So here we go. And pickle 4. That should be a good hit right there. Releasing some flares preemptively. Alright, now we'll bring it around up to the other side and crank off to the other side. And kaboom, right there. Pretty good hit. Not the best in the world. But as you can see, the higher the altitude you release those bombs, the less accurate they're going to be in CCIP, for sure. However, it is certainly worth it in order to bring your aircraft back and not lose an aircraft. Now, back to the idea of gun runs and rockets. You really, with rockets and guns, you gotta trust the avionics and computerized systems in the jets. Whether it is the AV-8B, the F-14 Tomcat, or the F-18C Hornet, you really gotta trust the CCIP reticle that the bullets and rockets are gonna hit where you put it. Now, rockets, of course, are very susceptible to windage and being forced away due to wind, so it's more of an area effect weapon, especially when you're trying to stay as safe as possible. But definitely trust the CCIP reticle, and especially the same when you're going in on a guns run. I can't tell you how many guys I've seen in my missions fire their gun at a ground target and then stay in the dive to watch their bullets hit, getting a little bit of target fixation, and then get just smattered by some AAA coming up at them as they get too close because they want to watch those bullets. Now remember that you can fire your gun, trust that the CCIP is going to work for you, that CCIP solution, crank off the target, get flares out there, get chaff out there, and then, you know, roll back over and you'll see where your guns hit. There's lots of nice little dust specks and little explosions where your 20 mic hits here in DCS World, so you'll definitely be able to see where it hit, so keep that in mind. So this video has definitely been requested multiple times, especially by guys who I've done private lessons for, and it's something that I think a lot of DCS World players can really benefit from, practicing good roll-in techniques and good and sound air-to-ground fundamentals, because just like in baseball with flying, you have to have good fundamentals. You have to be able to throw the ball and catch the ball before you can drop JDAMs. So just remember that for the next time you fly out in a mission. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I really do hope it helped you guys out. I hope you guys learned something, because I can't tell you how many guys I've helped out by giving them these little tips, and hopefully they will help you guys fly with more lethality and more survivability, like I said, in my missions, anyone else's missions, or public servers. So thanks a lot, guys. Please give us a like and a subscribe, or if you want some private lessons just like those guys I was saying, donate to my Patreon. Thanks a lot, guys.